Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryant and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 100, hitting triple digits this season, Dave. My name's Alex Kozora. That's Dave Bryant. Thank you guys for being here this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, if you didn't think we wouldn't have punter profiles, you are wrong, my friend, as we had our first go up today on Mac Stuffy. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Woohoo! You're making Danny Smith proud, huh? Happy Friday.
I had a dream last night. Danny Smith left the Steelers. I would categorize that more of a nightmare than a dream. True story.
That's the kind of dreams you have, huh? All right.
No further questions.
No further questions there. Look, what's the temperature like? It's warming up there, isn't it? The Pirates aren't, but the temperature is, right?
Yeah, it's been really nice, but in the 70s, and the Pirates are bad. But we knew the Pirates are going to be bad, so that's not a surprise to anybody.
It's already hit 90 degrees here in Vegas, at least once. Now, the rest of the time, it's 70s, 80s, right? It's absolutely beautiful up here right now, but I understand you got to go get a lawnmower soon already, huh?
I do, and I don't know. You know much more about lawn mowing and grass. You asked me what kind of grass I have, and I said it's green. So that's the extent of my grass knowledge.
Well, at least it is turning green. So at least that's. I guess this will be your first lawnmower purchase, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I mowed the lawn at my old house, but the landlord had it. It was just like oldest push mower ever, and I just need to get something nice. So if you have any lawn mowing tips, let us know after the show.
All right. Let's get after it.
All right, let's talk about the one major, well, I shouldn't say major, but one transaction that occurred with the Steelers since our last show on Tuesday. The Steelers signed, I'll call him outside linebacker edge guy more likely, Jamir Jones from Notre Dame, the fifth guy to be signed coming off a pro day. Jones was part of the 2020 draft class, was with Arizona briefly, but got cut basically a week in the training camp, and then he came back to end his pro day this year, which of course Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert were at, and they ended up signing him to their offseason roster.
Yeah, and he profiles as an edge there, and also the brother of. I'm getting my brother's name.
I think Jaron Jones.
Yeah, Jaron Jones, the tackle that spent actually converted defensive lineman, right? Two tackles, and this is he obviously spent. Did he spend? I think he spent the entire 2020 season on the Steelers practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. There, but the younger brother Jamir definitely profiles as an edge rusher. There, quite a backstory with the Jones family in general. With who was it? The father dealt with COVID and all like that, and that was COVID obviously played a factor in a lot of these kids. Not having their pro days last year or having things interrupted and not being able to get around teams and all like that. And I think we're seeing this year that, the Steelers aren't afraid to look at some of these guys, second run through the pro days. And if they impress enough, well, they're getting signed to the offseason roster. And, we'll obviously see where it goes. And, there's rumblings that we might have another one of those guys signing later today. Now, obviously, we don't have enough information on that to pass it along yet, but the player and him going to the pro day and all like that recently all matches up. So we'll see if the Steelers announce that later today here. But they certainly do have a history this offseason of not being afraid to sign some of these guys going back to their school's pro days.
And I haven't done the math and look league-wide, but I could almost guarantee the Steelers are the league leaders because it's going to be 4 or 5 here, guys that they've signed so far, 4 that we know, and that we think a 5th one is on the way. And so the Steelers taking advantage of pro days to not only obviously scout the 2021 draft class, but look at guys who are free agents and able to be signed right now.
And last year we had the guys from the XFL or the and then
AAF and XFL.
Yeah, AAF and XFL and all like that. So leaving no stone unturned, as they would say. And look, they needed to add another edge rusher, even if it is kind of a lower level undrafted guy like that. They did re-sign Cassius Marsh not long ago, but this is the depth chart at the outside linebacker position, much like the depth chart at the, I guess you'd say, the tight end position, severely lacking right now. So probably not a big surprise that they added another edge in there. I haven't got a chance to look at Jamir Jones' tape all that much. I know he did have a kind of a string of games in, 2019 of putting a couple sacks together in a row. But outside of that, I haven't really seen too much.
Just based on what you know, and I haven't studied these guys too closely either. Hopefully there'll be camp this year for me to get eyes on these guys. But of the four we know they've signed right now, Tyler Simmons, Matthew Sexton, Jarvis Miller, and Jamir Jones, is there any one guy that kind of sticks out to you in terms of intrigue more than the others?
I think Sexton does, really.
Yeah, I was going to say Sexton.
I think Sexton is the sexy one. How's that? The thing that gets me, and look, I'm not taking huge deep dives into these guys yet. You probably will when you kind of do the futures reports or all, because look, once we get past the draft here, things are going to grind to a halt here about 4 weeks after the draft, after we've gone inside and out of all those prospects and all, and I'm sure a couple of you guys will get to breaking down these guys in some film room sessions as well too. But the thing, I think I've already highlighted this when we talked about Sexton a couple of days ago, down the field catches, I think stick out for him. And he's got a few contested grabs on there. And he got a little bit of wiggle. Look, he's not, even though he ran what he ran at the combine or at the pro day recently, not blazing fast, but I think he finds a way to get open there. And I think he's got a little bit of a return ability to him. And I think specifically we said, look, this is a kid that, maybe can push a guy like Ray McLeod on the roster here, and we'll see what obviously happens in the draft to see if they get another player kind of like that, a move around motion player, slot player, if you will. But I think Sexton is the one right now that out of all of them that has caught my eye.
Yeah, I would say so too about Matthew Sexton. But Tyler Simmons, is also interesting too, as a bigger guy that has some kind of running back ability. And just, wasn't used a ton at Georgia, but just seems to be like, he can wear a lot of different hats, which always adds value to yourself. Yeah,
and I did a contextualization on his, 2019 targets, I think it was. Nothing, there was no wow moment with him. At least with Sexton, there was some down the field grabs, some contested catches, and him kind of doing a couple of things out in space and all. Really, I don't see the attraction to Simmons, quite honestly. Now I've only looked at just his targets and his targets alone. I thought maybe he did an okay job coming back to the football on some of those routes and some of the catches that he had. Ran a lot of, it seemed like out routes. I think at Georgia, but his tape so far, pales in comparison to a kid like Sexton, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So, but hopefully I'll make it to training camp and get an opportunity and go from there. All right, Dave.
If they do if they do draft another wide receiver, we've talked about this a few times. I really think it could be a kind of a wiggle guy, sort of like we talked about. Even though I don't see the high attraction in him, other than just a measurable, the Schwartz kid out of Auburn, I think is one the Steelers could look at. And other than that, I'd like to see him get somebody take the, kind of a fourth or fifth round guy, maybe with some straight line speed, that maybe a body catcher type of guy, a guy that's not going to be in the top 3 rounds because of certain attributes, but maybe a guy that you can work with developmental that can run that Z spot.
Are there any names that come to mind that in this draft process that you've kind of looked at?
And I'm just starting to get into now looking at compiling all of the pro day numbers and then kind of sorting some of these guys off of the old-fashioned piece. It's become now that you got Math Bomb doing what he's doing, what RAS scores, I guess,
Yeah.
and those are absolutely relative athletic scores, and those are absolutely fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I always like to keep going back to the old P-Spark scores. But I'm in search of that late round kind of Z player, if you will. What about Cornell Powell out of Clemson? Could he possibly be a guy? Be sort of that guy? Grimes, a late round guy as well.
In my mock. Yeah.
And I think you had him in your mock recently, you say. And trying to think who else here. One I haven't looked at his film, Arkansas State, Jonathan Adams. What do you know about Jonathan Adams?
Yeah, we did the profile on him a couple weeks ago. Kind of another long strider, big body, classic kind of above the rim type player that is viewed as a sleeper in a pretty deep receiver class.
Another one I have kind of pegged here, Simi Fehoko out of Stanford.
Yeah, we just had the profile on him, I think, a couple days ago. I don't know a ton about him, but we can revisit that profile and learn more about him.
And then I think that's about it as far as those kind of later round sparkier dudes that I have pegged right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll go through the list once Pro Days officially wrap up here the next day or two, and then we'll kind of have all the information we can kind of comb through, and we can put together the P-Spark scores and just kind of see what guys really fit that mold well.
And I think another one I have here, hold on a minute here, let me see if I got this right. Josh Emma.
Oh, don't even try to pronounce the last name.
You know what I'm talking about.
Illinois.
Yeah, the Illinois kid. I mean, if I'm looking at this right, I mean, he had like 142.6.
He had a 43.5-inch vertical at his pro day.
I mean, his what is his can you pull up his RAS score real quick?
I can try. I'm sure it was fantastic considering he did have an unbelievable workout, and that vertical is just insane.
And
it was 9.93. That was 19th out of over 2,400 receivers, according to Kent Lee Platt. So an insane RAS score.
And his P-Spark score, or I guess I should start calling it, because I used the reverse engineering of that formula that's called the Sporks. I think it's like knockoffs now. It's like the Walmart greater value. But someone tried to re-engineer the Spark formula, and they've gotten pretty close on that. I think they call it the Spork formula now. But 142.5. For that kid.
Wow.
And he measures in, I think, at almost 6'1", 218 pounds. So I haven't gotten to look a lot at him, but keep that mind in the back of your head. I mean, keep that name in the back of your head.
His vertical, I think, was 46.5. I undersold that, which is just...
I mean, that's jumping halfway to the moon almost, right?
Yeah, and he's like 6... How tall is he? He's 6'2", so it's not like he's some 5'10" guy. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Now, here's the thing. I think his 40 time is somewhere like 4.53 or something, right? Is that what you're showing?
Unofficially, I see a 4.48, probably adjusted. It probably was low 4.5, so yeah, you're probably right.
And I'm trying to think change of direction stuff. 4.38 short shuttle, I think, and a 7.10 the main thing that's got him being super sparky, I guess, is the broad was 11'2" as well. 11'2" and 46.5. So he's got some explosion, and then also a short shuttle of 4.38. Not bad. I mean, obviously not bad, but I think the big knock on him is probably his straight line speed there. But here we are talking about, ain't it great? We're talking about 7th round undrafted wide receivers and their Spark scores at this point.
Actually, real quick point of clarification. I just saw an updated tweet about his RAS score, and the agility times are actually pretty poor. And so that bumped him down to an 8.97 RAS, which is 259 out of 2,500 receivers. So the issue with him, if you just look at the numbers, is that change of direction is going to be his problem because his shuttle and his three-cone times are considered, according to the Math Bomb formula, pretty poor, actually.
And what are you showing those at? 4.38, 7.10?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, they're not awful, but I mean, for a guy his size, you would probably want that three-cone right at 7 or under, and you'd probably want that short that short shuttle at like what 4.2 or so, or lower with him.
Somewhere around there, yeah. So
it's not awful, but he's jumping. He's got some ups on him. I'll tell you that. And the straight line speed ain't all that either.
Right. So another guy to look at, we'll talk about throughout the rest of this draft process. All right, Dave. Some news that came across an interview actually that occurred, I think, after Tuesday's show was for the first time since he'd been released by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steven Nelson had an interview on Sirius Radio with Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller, who are brilliant over there on Sirius in their show Moving the Chains, and just kind of, again, it's his side of the story, so it's not, what was the old saying, there's his side, her side, and the truth, or whatever the saying is, but Nelson kind of gave his read of what led to his release, and just to kind of sum things up, and then we can talk about it. He said he did go to the team looking for an extension, partly because he thought he deserved it for his play, and partly because he thought that could lower his cap hit, which would help the team out, so he kind of viewed that as a win-win. The team obviously didn't go for that, and they ended up releasing him, didn't give him the chance to take a pay cut or anything like that, and he believes that ultimately he was released because of his large cap hit, and just a cap casualty is the way he phrased it.
Gee, sounds like something that you and I said about what was probably what happened with him. Probably got blindsided there. You look at their cap situation after the fact now and all that's transpired, it makes sense that one of the two probably were going to go if they didn't, because we had Nelson pegged as possibly getting an extension to lower that cap number.
Right, which it would have, right, slightly, but it would have lowered the cap number.
Right, it all depends on number, the length of it. I mean, you could have dropped that thing $3 or $4 million probably, right around in there, maybe even a little bit more, depending on if you did some voidable, whatever, But the fact of the matter is, we thought that this was a guy that was going to, if anything happened to Steven Nelson this offseason, we thought Steven Nelson would be extended.
Absolutely.
And he got cut instead. I don't think him going to the Steelers asking, to maybe potentially talk about an extension is what got him cut. Obviously, they didn't ask him to take a pay cut. Maybe out of common courtesy, but there was that report from that hack reporter who covers the Steelers, for a while out there saying that he wouldn't he didn't want to compete for his job, and how bogus is that?
Yeah, nothing. I think Nelson openly and I think privately as well refuted that assessment.
Right, and I mean, it's amazing how what people will do for a story and try to come up with a narrative here on these things, and I mean, let's call it what it was here. I mean, this is a guy that just was a cap casualty there, and they didn't think enough of his play to warrant paying him the $8.25 million that he was scheduled to earn, and there you go. And the timing of this, it happens right after Cameron Sutton gets re-signed and right after Juju gets re-signed. To me, I think if you look back through this whole thing, this was probably the plan, the offseason plan all along. Let's get Sutton re-signed, and because of the cap situation, if the cap comes in as low as we think it might, then Nelson's probably going to be the one out the door.
Yeah, now it is worth pointing out, though, that he did at least ask for that extension, because I wasn't sure if he did or not. So I think that was the most surprising thing that I had learned in the interview that Nelson had said, but it doesn't sound like it wasn't, at least the way that Nelson tells it, and maybe the Steelers would have a different version of this story, but it doesn't sound like Nelson said, I want an extension. The Steelers said no, so Nelson said, okay, I want out. It doesn't seem to be the way things went. It seemed like he wanted an extension. They said no, and they also said, we're going to cut you, according to Nelson, because, of purely financial reasons.
Right. And look, I mean, you could have made an argument, and the extension that I kind of had him getting anyway, the new money would have been an exact match of Joe Hayden, which I believe is $11 million average of new money. And I could have seen it going that way with him at a max. And I think it would have been fair for both sides. Obviously, the Steelers didn't think that should be the case there with him, and they wanted to go another direction. They obviously got Cameron Sutton for a lot less average new money and all like that. But I feel for the guy, and I mean you've talked about it several times how not so sure this was the right move to make with Steven Nelson. It's funny now. It's funny now too. He's out the door now. Everybody wants to talk. Oh, he sucked anyway.
Right. I still have trouble even wrapping my head around the situation. Even the more I learn about it, the more I listen to Steven Nelson's comments. I don't understand why they felt like they had to cut him. I feel like they could have made the math work, in other ways. Whether that's not signing Joe Hague or Chris Wormley and doing a void year extension with Joe Hayden. Just a weird situation all around. It felt like to me so sudden, so bizarre. Your team is worse, undeniably, without Steven Nelson than if you had him. And so I just don't. I cannot understand the rationale for this decision.
What do you think about why the need to rush out and try to beat this guy down out the door?
I don't know why he's being shown the door in the first place. I mean, even from a financial standpoint, I think there were other paths you had here to be cap compliant and have Steven Nelson on your team.
Yeah, you could have cut Eric Ebron.
No, you didn't even have to. You didn't have to cut anybody. The math that I laid out, avoidable year extension with Joe Hayden. You don't sign Joe Hagan, you don't sign Chris Wormley. Basically, gets you the money that you saved by releasing Steven Nelson.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how realistic. Maybe I'm sure if you would have went to Joe Hayden and said, if you want to help keep Steven Nelson around here,
right? Because Hayden wants to win. Hayden's won one career playoff game, right. So I think he'd be all for that. I mean, Ebron was for it. Juju did it. Ben did it. I mean, I think Hayden would be okay with that.
And then obviously, as we've talked, you couldn't have got Hague a little bit. We're splitting hairs here, but Wormley and Hague, and I'm glad Wormley's re-signed. I think you could have got him. You could have waited him out a little bit. You probably could have waited out Hague a little bit, for a little bit lower cap charge on both those guys as well too. But they just were ready to move on from him, I guess.
Right, I guess. But again, regardless of what you think about, Nelson or, him versus Juju, however you want to frame it, your team is worse by having Steven Nelson off your roster. And that's just the bottom line.
Look, I like Cameron Sutton. I'm glad they were able to get him re-signed and all. But what do we know about him playing on the outside for the most part?
Well, I think he can play on the outside, but it's just a question of now, okay, who's your slot corner? Or if Sutton's going to bump inside and sub-package, okay, now you're entrusting James Pierre / Justin Lane to pick up what Nelson did. So, and there's injuries and your depth is worse. So there's just a big domino effect here. So it's not that I don't like Sutton or I don't have faith in Sutton. I do, but it's just you really need to be 4 deep at corner. You need to have 3 starters plus a dime guy / injury protection. And by cutting Steven Nelson, you lose Mike Hilton. You've lost starters. You've lost depth. There's just a big domino effect here that makes your team ultimately a lot worse.
Should Steven Nelson have just let the dogs lie there? Do you blame him for? I mean, he seemingly did kind of go out of his way to get his side of the story told.
I don't blame anybody for sharing their story, especially I'm sure all the heat that he's taken on social media. Now, will it stop that heat and criticism? No, I'm sure it probably just strengthened it, if anything. But I never have any problem with a player being honest and at least telling their side of the story.
Right, and it seems like he has at this point. Anyway.
Plus, it's good for us. I prefer when Steelers are open about their situation.
I am too, and I think we call it, and just kind of re-emphasizes what we had said probably happened with him all along here. And
right.
I mean, he in so many words, he said he was blindsided,
Yeah.
He did not see this offseason going this way. I forget the exact quote that he had there, but he did not envision this being the path in 2021.
It'll be interesting to see what the Steelers say about it. I'm sure they'll be asked. I don't think they'll give much of an answer to it, but I just wonder what Kevin Colbert or Mike Tomlin would say whenever they're asked about it at some point later this offseason.
And, after he got to the point, and look, I don't blame him either for, after they told him to seek a trade there, and then he's seeing a couple of those, the Kyle Fuller and the Adoree Jackson signing the contracts that they're signing, and then there he's sitting there just waiting on the roster, dead man walking pretty much. Yeah, I think I'd say something too. Hey, get me out of here,
Mm-hmm. Right. Nelson said he's had 10 to 15 teams contact him. Of course, he still remains a free agent, so I don't know what his market actually is going to look like in terms of the financial demand for him. But we'll see whenever he signs. He may be playing the waiting game right now.
He probably will be until after the draft, But look, is there going to be a team that'll pay him $8.25 million for just one season in 2021? Probably not, but I think there's a decent chance that he finds a team that'll give him around $8 million in base and maybe signing bonus for like a multi-year deal. But would he even want a multi-year deal right now? And if he doesn't want a multi-year deal, then he's probably looking around $4 or $5 million for 2021.
Yeah, my guess is he'll take the 1-year deal, try to rebuild that value, and then attack in 2022 when the cap goes up, like so many other players have done this offseason.
All right, we got all that spilt milk cleaned up, right?
All right, let's move on to the NFL draft, Dave. I was surprised by the response to this article in a very pleasant way. I kind of just wanted to, because we talk so much about pro days, we get in the weeds about some of these prospects and where Tomlin and Colbert are at. And so with pro day season basically over and Tomlin and Colbert probably not showing up at UAB today, I'm guessing, we kind of know where they've been at this year, the 9 different schools. And so I wanted to kind of put down a list of where Tomlin and Colbert have been, because that's so important with the correlation with first-round picks and the top prospects, just to kind of create a relative short list of the guys we really need to be honing in on as potential Steelers first-round picks. So I ended up coming down to about, 15 names total of guys that kind of fit that base criteria of first-round talent at a position of, some level of need with Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert at their pro day. So I think that was a helpful guide to kind of frame things for Steelers fans.
Absolutely, and that's what we do, right? We try to read the tea leaves in these things and try to, from what we know based on history. And look, they've got a long history when it comes to these guys at the pro days and their first round picks and all like that. And I'm not surprised it got the response that it got, because it's good information there. And look, is it foolproof? No. All it takes is them. There's no rule that says they have to draft one of these guys. But and I know a lot of people got on you and say, well, why didn't you put this guy on here? Well, if they read the article, it's all based on Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert attending the pro days. So if Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert did not attend the pro day of a player, then that player is not going to be on the list for starters. And yeah, there are some interesting names of some players that you probably would consider possibly being a Steelers first round draft pick, but with Mike Tomlin not being at, and Kevin Colbert not being at the pro day for this particular article and this study, they're not going to be on there. So I think a lot of people have their own narratives built in, and there's a lot of people I see in the comments too. Some people kind of build in their own narratives. Well, this is different, because of X, COVID or what have you. That once again, that's not the way the article's set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want to have some criteria here, and so if we didn't include Tomlin and Colbert at their pro day, then it would just be a wide open field of just include every name possible, so there wouldn't be a narrowing down of the list. And while obviously I know Colbert has made things different, it really hasn't altered the pro day schedule that much. It's not like Tomlin and Colbert only went to 1 or 2 pro days this year. They were at 9, which is almost more than where they're at usually. So it honestly, I know there were restrictions on who you could take, but I don't think it really changed, the Steelers' philosophy in terms of the pro day history this year.
I don't either. And look, I understand guys like who's the linebacker out west?
Zaven Collins.
Yeah, Zaven Collins, out in Tulsa. If they really liked that kid and they really wanted him, they would have been at that pro day. It's not like that's out on, hugely out of the way, right? I mean, we've
right.
seen
Sorry,
Colbert show up at Oklahoma pro days before, and that's right there, right? Tulsa's right close.
Yeah, they were they around the same time?
Oh, I'm just saying from a geographical standpoint.
Yeah, there's nothing preventing
I'm
that.
not talking about this year specifically, but I'm just talking.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if we're talking them going out to the USC pro day or something.
Mm-hmm. Which is weird they don't do. I think they should, but that's a terrible take from a couple of days ago. I know Tulsa's obviously a much smaller program, but a couple of years ago they were at Wake Forest to watch Jesse Bates, and it was really just Jesse Bates there. So they can go to some of these quote unquote smaller schools or schools who don't have a ton of talent just to go see one guy. So. If they really like Zaven Collins, and I'm sure they do, they met with him and all that. But if he was really in strong contention, they would have been at his pro day.
And look at the two. Look at the couple of prospects from Virginia Tech as well too. A lot of people are mad that Farley isn't on that list, or the tackle over there. Look, Mike Tomlin doesn't need any excuse to go back to Virginia, right?
Right. Anything to get close to the 757 area, he's there.
Right. So, it's I forget what other pro day might have been going on. What was there? Another
Florida State. They were at Florida State that day.
All right. Well, that speaks volumes in itself, because there's really only I understand the defensive lineman was there, but technically there's really only the one prospect there, right?
Well, I mean, they have a couple.
Asante Samuel Jr. But I mean, as far as guys that are going to be in consideration for that. Top 3 rounds, I guess,
Yeah, and the top guy there is Asante Samuel Jr., but you could have been at Virginia Tech, because I know Farley didn't work out, but you could still get to know Farley.
Sure.
Half the reason they go to these pro days isn't to watch, can this guy play? They know these guys can play, but get to know the person and get to meet them and talk to them and have that kind of interaction is just as valuable, if not more so, than the actual workout itself.
All right, now let's go from let's start at the kind of the master list, and then why you whittled a guy down, why he ended up on the final list and why he didn't end up on the final list. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Because the way I started this was the first list I had was just every single name, even guys that were going to be like top 5 picks, just anyone that was considered borderline first round talent, or
remotely possible, right?
Right, just any sort of top talent, and then I whittled it down from there. So we can start. How do you want to start this?
All right, let's start with at the top with Travis Etienne. I mean, obviously a first round draft pick, prospect, running back at that. So no brainer that he was on the master list and then made it to the whittled down list, right?
Right. Yeah. Clear interest, position of need. He's near the top of the list here.
All right, Jackson Carman is another name that you have, tackle/guard. Why didn't he tell the folks why he didn't make it down to the whittled down list?
2 reasons: probably not a mid-first round talent, and he's probably going to kick to guard at the next level, which is not going to be a position of immediate need for Pittsburgh.
Okay, all 3 of the and those were the only 2, right, from Clemson.
For Clemson, correct. Yeah.
That were considered, first round or maybe borderline first round picks.
Right.
The next 3 from Georgia, all 3 of them made the final cut. 2 of them cornerbacks, and Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell, and Aziz. I'm going to mess up his last name. I always do.
Yeah, old Jari. I don't know how to say his name.
Jari, the edge.
Right, the edge. Aziz, the edge.
There
all 3 made it. And Stokes, Campbell, Aziz. Now I think Aziz probably is gone by the time the Steelers come picking, but he's kind of in that teen to top 20 range, and so he could just slip a little bit and be there at 24. So that's why I kept him on the list.
Campbell's probably the more desirable of the 2 of him and Stokes. Yeah, you think?
I think I put Stokes above Campbell on my list there, because I think Stokes had better ball skills, and I think a little better athlete overall, if I'm remembering correctly. And so it could go either way.
I got him confused there, because Tyson Campbell, I think, is the one that I said. Okay, Tyson Campbell is the more Steeler-like guy, I think, from the research and just watching his his interviews and stuff like that, comes off more Steeler-like. And didn't Tyson play a little bit in the slot? Was he the one that played a little bit in the slot?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
All right, and Aziz obviously fits what the Steelers like to look for as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, he plays to run well despite kind of having this lankier, lean frame. Now, again, am I saying that he's going to be the pick? No, but that's just a first-round talent that theoretically could be in contention for Pittsburgh.
All right, only one of the Florida State kids, and an obvious one, Asante Samuel Jr. Boy, he recently said in an interview with who was his interview with Bryant McFadden, talking about he got a good Steelers were one of like 3 teams that he got a really good vibe from so far during the pre-draft process here. This he's got. You want to talk about checking a lot of boxes?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he checks. He is a guy that people are talking about potentially being the Steelers pick. But down the list, but the more you dig into him, and then especially on the heels of Steven Nelson being gone now, boy, you start circling back to some of these guys. You start wondering if he's there at 24, could this be the guy?
Right, if Najee Harris isn't there, for example, because he checks everything. He's young, he's a junior with good ball skills, good playmaking, 3 interceptions in 8 games last season. Obviously, great bloodlines, the son of Asante Samuel, great cornerback ball hawk there in the NFL. Florida State, Power 5, Tomlin, Colbert there. Position of need, could you play him in the slot, play him on the outside? I think you could do either or with Samuel Jr. So, I mean, I had him on my list of 15. I had him as the 5th most likely option and the 2nd defender on the list. So that's fairly high up there.
Absolutely, and he is a guy you better take out your marker right now and circle because, like I said, you start looking at those lists and you're going back and you start checking all the boxes. He's got a ton of them. Now, obviously, the Steelers and cornerbacks don't have a good history. You go back to the last cornerback that they took in the first round was Artie Burns, and we all know how that played out. But I mean, this guy is a bona fide. He checks so many boxes at this point. You would wonder why would he still be on the board at 24?
Yeah, just a couple good corners going above him with J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. That probably pushes him down a little bit.
Right, and then obviously you're going to have some cornerbacks go, and he circle his name. All right, yep. The Alabama guys, a bunch of them. Let's see, how big was the list to start with, and what did they get whittled down to?
Yeah, it was like 7, and I think I probably should even included Jalen Waddle on that list, but he's not going to be a Steeler. But I had Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Landon Dickerson, Alex Leatherwood, Christian Barmore, Patrick Surtain, Devonta Smith, and that got whittled down to Najee Harris, Landon Dickerson, and Alex Leatherwood.
All right, I would rank them as far as probability goes: Harris, Dickerson, Leatherwood.
And that's how I ranked them too.
Surtain would be interesting if he's on the on the board. But look, they mostly set offensive guys there, right? To that pro day. So I don't know what that tells you right there. Mac Jones, we expect him to be one of the several quarterbacks probably drafted at this point. They couldn't have any more fingerprints on Najee Harris than they do right now.
Yep.
Landon Dickerson, you know how I feel about him. I like him. I don't know if you can take him in the first round is all.
Well, yeah, just as we've always said, comes down to the medicals, and I have no idea how they're going to evaluate him. But if you do clear him medically and say that we don't think he's a long-term risk, then I don't know what's stopping you from taking him at 24.
All right, so probability-wise, once again, I would probably go Najee, Landon, Leatherwood. And sure fact, Leatherwood's probably going to find him a suitor in the top 23 picks anyway. But I don't think they favor him as much as they do a couple of those other Alabama products there. But Najee, I think so far on this list that we have of players right now, Najee and Asante Samuel would be probably close to leaders in the clubhouse.
Yeah, Najee Harris was number 1 on my list of the 15 guys I ultimately whittled things down to. So no surprise there.
All right, Penn State.
Yeah, Micah Parsons and Jason Owa. Now, Parsons, he could certainly be gone well before 24. I wonder if he'll slip a little bit with guys like Zayvon Collins and JOK and Davis from Kentucky kind of, rising up throughout this process. And while I did keep him on the whittled down list, I think he's lower just because of some of the off the field concerns, some of the hazing stuff that happened. Maybe he's past that, but the Steelers have been very much shying away from any guy with any sort of off the field kind of issues the last couple of seasons. So Parsons would be a good scheme fit. I don't know if the off the field stuff might take him out of contention to be a Steeler if he's even there at 24.
And I think we both agree nothing says they can't draft him, but Freiermuth just feels like not a first round guy at this point.
Yeah, had him on the big list, and then on the whittled down list, I took him off just because I don't think he's going to be really worth it at 24.
The big question about Owa, I think the measurables are definitely there. What happened last year?
No sacks, 0 sacks.
After having 11, I think 10 or 11 the season before. Owa could be a dark horse maybe in this. I think is Owa going to be on the board? You think when the Steelers pick?
My guess is yes, but in just a weak edge class, and because he's just such a physical freak that it's kind of hard to pass up on the traits. It's just hard for me to get my head around on drafting a guy in the first round who didn't have a single sack last season. Just hard for me to do that.
All right, the two Michigan guys.
Yeah, at Michigan, I had on the whittled down list Jalen Mayfield, the offensive tackle. I think he's borderline to even be included on this list after that terrible pro day workout he had, but he's still, offensive tackle, I think 21 years old, a good athlete on tape, much better than how he tested. And so I don't think you can ignore that possibility completely, although I think it's more or less unlikely that happens at 24.
I'm going to guarantee you neither one of Kwity Paye or Jalen Mayfield will be the Steelers' first round pick at 24 overall.
Bold take.
Yeah. Boy, what I tell you, Jalen's Mayfield's Peace Park score was like 83, 84. 81. Ooh. That's bad. And Quity's just not a perfect fit, I don't think, scheme-wise.
That, and I think he's probably gone before 24 as well.
All right. Ohio State. Interesting group right here.
Yeah, of course, Justin Fields was on that list. He was not on the whittled down list. What I ended up coming away with was Wyatt Davis, the guard, and Baron Browning, the off-ball linebacker. Browning, if you want to talk about dark horses, Browning is a big guy we should talk about at least a little bit more. We haven't really mentioned his name.
I was waiting to get to this because looking back, knowing that we were probably going to talk about these set of players today. Went back digging around and reading and watching a little bit of tape there. If you want to talk about another guy on this list that the boxes checked or kind of off the chart, I would think Baron Browning would be one of these guys. So I would rank him right now up there with Najee and Asante Samuel Jr. as potentially being the guy.
Yeah, the big issue.
Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't he be?
I would probably say just an overall lack of production. 4-year guy, 109 career tackles, 7 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, never had an interception. I mean, overall, only once had more than 30 tackles in a season. That was back in 2019, his junior season. So just the lack of production would be the thing with him. But he was a great athlete. The RAS score has him as the 9.98 out of 10, which is number 5 out of 2,100 plus linebackers, according to MathBomb. What did he run? He ran 4.58. Actually, this might be some unofficial numbers, so I might want to get updated stuff on that. But just 40-inch vertical, I think a 10-1 broad, just some really good numbers at 245 pounds.
Was he a captain or no?
I do not know. I can look that up. Because that would obviously be important for the Steelers.
Right. I don't know for sure if he was or not. I'm not seeing anything in his bio.
Yeah, I'm just looking up captain. I don't think, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure right now.
He look, they were at that pro day. He would fit, right? And what's he from a Spark?
Should be really good. I don't know exact official 40 times. I don't think he was captain, by the way. I think Tuff Borland was the Ohio State linebacker that was captain.
Let's see here. Browning, I got a that can't be right. 144.4 P spark. Was there something that he did not do?
It looks like he did everything. That's a really good P spark score, isn't it?
Holy moly! Yeah, 144. Yeah. What's his math bomb?
I think this is working with the unofficial numbers, but it was 9.98, which is number 5 ever out of 2,100 plus linebackers.
What are they showing on his numbers there? As far as like read off his numbers. What the unofficial numbers? What they're working on.
Let me try to see if Draft Scout has anything according to official. This is what Draft Scout says is their what I assume are official numbers, but weighed in 6'2" and 3/4, 245, ran a 4.56 40, had a 40-inch vertical, 10.10 broads. I read that wrong. It wasn't 10.1, it was 10.10. And a 6.78 3-cone time.
Wow.
245 pounds. So
and I think a 422 shuttle too. Yeah. Nice change.
Yeah, 422 short shuttle. Yeah. So really good athlete, big hitter, production not great, but someone we should probably be talking about a little more than we have.
Yeah, I guess in the next couple of weeks, let's both kind of dig down into about 3 or 4 games to find out why that production wasn't there.
Okay, good deal.
What about why isn't Myers on that list?
I just didn't think 24 just felt too rich. I think 55 can start that conversation. I just really hadn't seen a lot of mocks where anyone was really predicting him to go in the first round.
All right, the Notre Dame kids are next.
Yeah, Notre Dame, the two that got whittled down to was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, JOK, and Liam Eichenberg. And I think JOK, as we talked about last time, and as evidenced by my mock draft on Monday, really checks all the boxes.
Liam, what's the knock there?
I mean, he's on the list, but some people question his athleticism. Brian Kelly outright said he's not a left tackle. Just really threw some shade at Liam Eichenberg. I'm a big fan of his tape. I think he's a good athlete. He tested well, and his tape shows that. But I think just tackle is going to be a little bit lower on this team's priority list, and most people seem to think he's a right tackle only.
All right, I would agree. I think he's a little bit of a look. This is a deep tackle class. But might he be first round? Maybe, but he might be a guy. I view the Steelers potentially passing on him if he is on the board. JOK is a different story there. All right, that's it. That's the list, right?
Yeah, so then I kind of just did a rough ranking of those 15 names in the order I think they're most likely to be drafted. This was not,
this is good.
Scientific concrete list, but the top 5 were Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, JOK, Landon Dickerson, and Asante Samuel Jr. were the top 5 I think most likely names to be drafted of those 15.
You're a big Landon Dickerson stan, aren't you?
I am, but listen again. If you get past the medical, I know it's really hard to do, but if you get past it, what is the reason not to take him? Or that he would not be strongly considered.
Good character,
mauler in the run game, well respected. He became captain Alabama despite transferring over. Position of need at his pro day. He's checking all those boxes.
Is Travis number 2 just more so positional need aspect of it?
Partially, but I mean they did send Tomlin, Colbert, Canada to the Clemson Pro Day to see all those offensive guys, Rodgers and Powell and Carmen. But it's a combination of who they sent and the need. Yes,
I think I would rank these guys. Is Asante number 5 just because of the sheer fact that you're not sure if he's going to make it to them, or is there a reason why Asante's 5th? Behind, say, a guy like Dickerson and JOK?
Because I think they're much more likely to go offense and defense in this draft, in the first round at least, and also just I think that they like James Pierre and they want to play Sutton on the outside some, so they may not feel like corner is as big of a dire need than maybe where I feel like it is right now.
I think I would rank these guys Najee 1.
Okay.
Samuel 2.
Wow, 2 for Samuel.
Yeah, I got a vibe on him now.
So you're saying there's a good chance that they could go another year with defensive player in the first round?
I think they could. Najee 1, Asante 2. I would go JOK 3, Travis Etienne 4, and then Baron Browning 5. Those would be my 5 I would pick out of this.
So you have more defensive players in that top 5 than offensive players.
Yeah, because I mean,
Art Rooney is not going to like you.
Huh?
He's going to be like, Art Rooney's going to be like, "Where's my run game at?"
This is kind of a perfect time to segue here, and I don't think we've. And you definitely paid enough mind to this. That's why I really liked your last mock. I think it kind of opens. Do they like Trey Sermon more than most? Do you think?
I don't. It's hard to say more than most and how to come up with an answer for that. I think they like Trey Sermon, though. Sure.
I have a feeling that if they don't get, this is all obviously I think predicated more on Najee. I think they would be fine with. I guess what I'm getting at is I think they'd be fine with Trey Sermon in like round 2 or round 3.
Yeah, if they can't get a Harris or Etienne or they don't take him for whatever reason,
right.
Sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say mostly because I think they want someone that's bigger and someone they feel like has the size and the capacity to be that future back. So as much as I like someone like Kenny Gainwell from Memphis, I think they want someone who they feel like can be their bell cow because that's what they've always wanted to have.
And the same goes for Javonte, right? Basically.
Right. Now I think Javonte. Javante's got good size. He's just a little short.
But history tells you they wouldn't spend the early pick on that, just on the measurable side.
Yeah, I'll have to go through my what they look for study, which is going to be a pain this year with these pro days, trying to come up with numbers and trying to find a good way to sort this thing, because the combine made it a whole lot easier. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll definitely get to a running back study on that.
All right. We've said it several times. It's probably going to be one of 3 backs at this point: Najee, Travis Etienne, or Trey Sermon, right? More than likely.
That's what's in my head right now. I mean, we'll see, but that's what's in my head. Sure.
And I think they're higher on Myers, the center out of Ohio State, than maybe you think. But I mean, look. I mean, you look at this list. Whittle that list of 15 down to like 8.
Well, I mean, you can just look at my top 8, which is Harris, Etienne, JOK, Dickerson, Samuel, Leatherwood, Browning, and Aziz. That's my top 8.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Which seems like a decent top 8 there. So
I think it's coming out of that list. I'll tell you that. And I don't think that I think you can throw Jalen Mayfield off there. I think you can throw Micah Parsons off there. I think you can throw Eichenberg off there. I think you can throw Wyatt Davis off of there. And I think you can throw Leatherwood out of there too. And Landon Dickerson, I think you can throw him out of there. But
yeah, if they don't clear him medically, then he's not going to be in 24 consideration. But anyway, so I just want to kind of give that as a perspective and a list and just kind of a way to sum up all the pro day, hoopla we talk about all the time.
All right, most okay, of the guys not on the list because of Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert not being at the pro days. Name me the one guy that would have the best chance of breaking the breaking that trend.
It's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, there's a couple names that come to mind. Most of the ones that got yelled about, not including on the list. David Collins, Tevin Jenkins. I think Tevin Jenkins would be a great right tackle in the system. If you talk about just getting serious about upgrading the run game and getting physical again, I mean, how do you not take Tevin Jenkins if he's there? I mean, I don't know if it's a guarantee he'll be there. It's probably not. But Collins and Jenkins probably the first 2 names that come to mind.
And boy, Collins would break another trend too, non-power 5, right?
Right. Yeah, so that has not happened since 2004.
I mean, we're talking about really stopping the presses there.
Yeah. So, but again, history says it'll come from where they were at. Again, there's no guarantee of that, but I think it's not just correlation too. There's causation. Where they go, they want to see these guys, they want to get to know these guys, and it's important for Tomlin and Colbert to do that. So it's not like it's just a coincidence that the last 10 draft picks have come from Tomlin and Colbert Pro Day circuit.
All right. Good. We'll be revisiting this for sure. Who do we need to watch more of here? Browning?
Probably Browning. Yeah. Browning.
And probably both of the Georgia corners just in case as well, too, right?
Mm. And I want to watch some more Samuel Jr. as well because he does feel like he checks all those boxes.
All right. Good discussion.
Yeah. Speaking of the draft, I thought interesting comments yesterday. I'm glad you found them from Dan Graziano and I think Adam Schefter too. I don't know exactly what Schefter said on it, but just talking about the idea of could the Steelers take a mid-round quarterback, kind of, a la 2018. And Graziano, the way he phrased it, kind of sounded like the Steelers were planning on doing that. I don't know how much to put that in speculation or report bucket. But interesting comments from Dan Graziano.
Yeah, why does it seem all of a sudden this past week there's been a resurgence about talk about Steelers potentially drafting a quarterback? I think a lot of people are, not that these people matter, the Booger McFarlands and the Grazianos and the Adam Schefters when it comes to draft analysis or whatnot. But I think we are starting to see a little bit more talk about the potential of the Steelers drafting a quarterback this year, but not necessarily in the first round. Is that the way the narrative you feel has been out there this past week?
Yeah, I think that's basically what Graziano is saying.
Or speculation, not so much narrative, but speculation.
Well, right, because Graziano, the interesting comment he said was, quote, so they go into this draft knowing they have to address quarterback, but I don't think they're in a position where they can mortgage everything to trade up for one of the big guys or spend that 24th overall pick on a guy for whom it might be a reach. But he says they go into the draft knowing they have to address quarterback again. Is that speculation and just him reading tea leaves, or is that based on some, educated guess based on reporting and what he's being told or at least hearing?
I think that's 100% speculation on his part. I've never viewed Graziano as being really connected guy,
Well, he makes a reference to what Schefter said. He says, quote, I think they do feel like they have to get a quarterback in this draft, as Adam Schefter said. When did Schefter say that?
He said that in that same interview, or
he did.
In that was part of the Get Up program there.
Okay, and generally Schefter says those things with some, back end knowledge of those things.
All right, let's assume they are correct.
Okay.
Which I'm not.
Yeah.
Which I don't. But
okay.
We try to play both sides of this, right?
I think there's a chance it could happen. I take this not super seriously, but I've had this thought in my head already for a little while now that they could take a second, third, fourth round quarterback.
All right, and if they do, who are the names?
I think you got a couple. You got Kellen Mond from A&M, Kyle Trask from Florida, and Jamie Newman from Wake Forest / Georgia. I think Newman might be the most possible answer on that list.
Really?
And in terms of like a little bit later in the draft, like maybe fourth round for Jamie Newman, he didn't play this year and didn't have a great Senior Bowl week.
Well, if you draft a quarterback this year, that's it for Haskins. Period. Right?
I mean, he could land on the practice squad.
I mean, you're gonna spend a fourth round draft pick and then worry about getting, potentially worry about getting that kid to the practice squad.
I mean, it's just about having good competition for everybody, making Haskins work.
Or you talk about Haskins to the practice squad?
No, Haskins to the practice squad. Yeah, not the rookie. Haskins to the practice squad.
I suppose, but I mean, I would think if he makes it that far through training, if he makes it that far, I mean, as long as he doesn't totally mess the bed up in preseason action there, some other team will probably come calling for him to be their number 3. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, nobody did when he first got released.
Sure, they probably want to see a little bit more tape on him and all, but I don't know. The way I view it, to me, it feels like it would be Mond or bust. Kind of a mid round guy, because he's the guy that seems like they've shown the most during the pre-draft process. Just and Senior Bowl, and look, they like guys with a little bit of experience there. Just to me, it really feels like Mond. It would be a Mond or bust type situation if they would go quarterback, say, fourth round or so.
I mean, Newman checks those boxes too. He said they talked to him quite a bit. He was at the Senior Bowl, and I didn't play this past year, and that could be the knock against him. But I think Mond. I don't know if you're going to get Mond in the fourth round, to be honest with you. I don't want to get bogged down in that, but I think he's going to be taken earlier than that.
I have not viewed him as a top 2 round guy. You know.
Quarterbacks always get overvalued though, just because you're just trying to get one. The thought on the quarterback position is just this is similar to 2018, where you don't have a lot of long-term. You have no long-term guys on the roster right now. Right, no one is under contract through next season. And I don't think they want to get in that position where they feel like they have to re-sign Rudolph, or they don't have a quarterback on the roster to start next season. I mean, obviously, Haskins is going to be an RFA, and so you could tender him and probably do that pretty easily. But I feel like they might want to make those longer-term investments just in the way they did in 2018 with Mason Rudolph.
Man, and I know you could go every year, go back through these podcasts and say, man, they got so many needs versus picks, and my thought all along is if you don't get one early, if you don't get one of those top 4 or top 5, then why bother? To me, it just feels
I'm the same way.
To me, it feels like why.
But we know that doesn't matter because they do this all the time. They did it with Josh Dobbs and Mason Rudolph. There's a lot of history of them taking.
Well, the thing is, to me, there were more, and I wrote about this ahead of time. There was more. The writing was on the wall that Rudolph could have been the guy, even a year after Dobbs, because that came exactly the year after Dobbs. Mm-hmm. There was enough in the pre-draft process and Kevin Colbert's comments and all like that. There was enough to put the tinfoil hat on pretty damn tight. And yeah, I wrote about Rudolph quite a bit during that off season about don't be surprised if he's drafted. I don't get any of that this year. Other than Mond.
What's different?
Just the interest and all. I think. And
what
really,
interest did they show
other than Colbert, and Colbert to me hasn't really made, and he hasn't talked much because normally you have the.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe he's just not being asked those questions this year.
I don't get the feel of it.
Yeah. I hear that. I mean, obviously, I would prefer them not to for the reasons that you're mentioning, because there are other needs and just the lack of success in any kind of mid-round quarterback. But it would not shock me if it happened 3rd, 4th round. And I'm kind of starting to warm up to the idea in terms of could this actually happen? And
then you're thinking you would thinking it would be in the 3rd or 4th round then, right? I think
picked around.
Really. Wow.
And just because, if they want a Kellen Mond, for example, and they feel like they need to get this guy. Because if they view quarterback as a need because they don't feel like they have any long-term options because they don't right now, then that kind of jumps to the top of the list in terms of, we're going to take a quarterback earlier. We're not going to wait and be dictated to what our quarterback's going to be.
Do you think Mond can be a starter in the NFL? I know you think. I know you don't think Trask can.
No, I think he's a backup. I haven't watched Mond enough, but so I think Mond probably is a top 100 player, though I don't think he's going to be there in the 4th round.
I view them, if they do this, if we are entertaining the idea that they might potentially draft a quarterback, I don't think they should. And I think you agree with me, right?
I do.
All right. B, if they do, I view it being one of those 2 4th-round picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's more realistic than, say, 2nd round. I think Jamie Newman in the 4th round. That first 4th-round pick, I think, makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to be poking my eyeballs out.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, just an interesting comment there. I'm glad you wrote about it and glad we could discuss it.
All right. I mean, we always like to try to look at both sides, both sides of this, and I'm trying my best to open my mind to look. My thoughts all along of this. I mean, going back, this time last year, I just I don't see them drafting a quarterback in this draft. I did reach a point though until Ben got taken care of, where I thought, okay, maybe there's a chance sometime in the 1st round. But now that it's looking like they're not going to have a shot at one of those, say, top 4. Now look, do you have to examine this thing if one of those top 4 fell down to you? I mean, possibly. I mean, if a Mac Jones is there, I mean, would they consider it?
I have no idea how they feel about Mac Jones or Justin Fields if he were to fall. I mean, maybe they should. I think he should, but I have no idea how they feel about those.
I guess what I'm saying is I could envision him going that way if one of those 4 fell, but that's it. That would be it.
Yeah, but again, the quarterbacks on this roster, there aren't any under contract. And so I think the Steelers, obviously they recognize that and say, well, Ben's probably gone. Rudolph, we don't want to feel like we have to re-sign Rudolph because that's going to hurt our leverage. We want to have some internal options as well if Ben retires and Rudolph's gone and Haskins doesn't work out. And so they're going to sit there and say, we could have nothing in the quarterback room going to the start of the 2022 season, and we don't want to be in that place. And so we're going to take a mid-round quarterback now.
Okay.
That's the rationale. It would be, at least.
There is a level of plausibility, I guess, to it.
And if Schefter's making a reference to it, I think it always kind of perks my ears up a little bit, at least.
All
right, Dave. Last, I think, piece of draft information was what I referenced at the top of the show. Our first punter profile, not our last. If you want more punter profiles, we're coming at you here with Max Duffy out of Kentucky, the Aussie. He's about to turn 28 years old, so an older gentleman, but for punters it matters a lot less. Interesting guy. I don't think I would draft him, but I'm guessing somebody does.
I talked about this on my terrible take on Thursday, and me talking about the Steelers possible, I'd much rather see him spend a 6th or 7th round draft pick on a punter than I would them spend a 3rd or 4th round pick on a quarterback. That's kind of where, and look, I've talked about punter for quite a while now. I could see this happening. 6th or 7th round. Now, what 3 punters are you're going to probably profile like the top 3 punters, right? Duffy, the kid out of Georgia Tech, and I think the kid out of Cincinnati, right?
Well, I'm definitely doing Presley Harvin from Georgia Tech as Danny Smith was there. I don't know if I'm going to get to a 3rd. If I do, it might be the Ohio State kid, Drew Krishman. I don't know who the 3rd would be, but I've watched Duffy and Harvin right now.
Okay, I think a lot of people have the Cincinnati punter top 3 as well too. So I mean, obviously you're going to do the Georgia Tech guy and the Kentucky guy because that's where we spotted where you spotted Danny Smith at, and that would make sense. Why should they or shouldn't they draft a punter?
Well, you would draft a punter because you just feel like Barry's not your long-term option, or at the very least you want to give some really good quality competition that you really haven't had there really since Jordan Berry became your starting punter. So that would be the rationale to do it. The rationale not to do it was you have so many other needs. And as you mentioned in your take, you can just probably sign someone after the draft and have him be competition instead.
I mean, you could technically, how many punters are going to normally get drafted every year? 1, maybe 2?
Yeah, I don't know what the number is exactly. I think it's between about 2. It's probably a good number to put on it.
All right. So, I mean, if you don't draft one, then you probably need to bring at least probably 2 more in, you would think.
Probably just at least 1. You got Waitman, Berry, plus undrafted
guys. I
forgot
about Waitman. Yeah, I forgot about Waitman.
Yeah. Now, Duffy's an Aussie guy. He's a rugby-style punter. He played Australian rules football for a long time. That's why he's older, about to turn 28 years old. So he'll have to transition to the more traditional style. He did do some of that at Kentucky and then did that at the Senior Bowl as well. He had a great inside 20 rate. He does a great job being able to pin teams deep. Maybe that's a little bit guided by the Aussie style of punting, but I think there's some projection there because what he just did in college is so different than what he'll do in the NFL. Not that it can't be overcome. He cited examples of guys who have made the transition from rugby style to traditional style, but it is going to be a projection there.
All right, looks like our very own Josh Carney is a daddy.
Hey, nice.
Monday, April 5th, welcome Cameron Jace Carney to the world. 7 pounds, 7 ounces, and 20 inches long. I don't see a 40 time here on the baby or vertical on here. Mama and the baby are very healthy and doing well. Blessed to grow up family. Good for you, Josh. Congratulations there. So that just coming across there.
Yeah. Congrats to Josh. I'm glad everyone is happy and healthy. To go back to Duffy, the last thing on him, which is really interesting, and I found this out really late in the process. Actually, there's 2 pieces of interesting information. He's good friends with Jordan Berry, and actually so much so that Duffy and Jordan Berry helped recruit Jordan Berry's younger brother Wilson to go to Kentucky to replace Duffy as the punter next season.
Wow, interesting.
So they're like good friends, and I don't know exactly how they know each other. Obviously, they're both Aussies, but I don't know exactly what the story is there. But they are good friends, and also until this past year, Duffy's special teams coach at Kentucky was Dean Hood, who was Jordan Berry's special teams coach at Eastern Kentucky when the Steelers drafted him. So I wonder if they're calling up Dean Hood, asking for some inside information on Max Duffy.
Well, there you go. You sound like some dots are starting to get connected there, so good on you.
Yeah. And also, Duffy was a holder this past season, which is going to be very important because if you're going to punt in the NFL, you better hold in the NFL.
All right.
So,
Good,
anyway,
good work there. And you'll do the Georgia Tech kid next then.
Yes, I'll have the report on that probably sometime next week. All right, Dave. Juju Smith-Schuster spoke with Michael Irvin on his podcast. Actually, a really good interview I thought that Juju and Irvin had yesterday, whenever it was, and some interesting stories and information from Juju there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time talking about, his comments about AB and that relationship, even though it doesn't sound like that thing's going to get repaired anytime soon there. But he talked about the courtship from the Chiefs and the Ravens and how all that went down. That was mildly entertaining there. But I think one of the biggest things to come out of that was him talking about now that he's healthy and all, maybe being able to play a little bit more on the outside.
Yeah. Now, did he say he played more on the outside last year? Because I felt like he was playing in the slot quite a bit last season.
Yeah, it didn't. I don't think it added up, right?
Yeah, I have to go back and check some of the math on that, but it didn't seem to track with what's in my head, at least in terms of our charting and obviously what I observed.
What did he? Do you have the quote in front of you? What he actually said?
I do not. I'm not sure. I think Matthew might have just written about it, but
he
obviously
says what people really didn't get to see a lot is later in my career, because I dealt with injuries. I played mainly slot, and coming back and playing outside more this year and showing people that I could be a number one, and having been back healthy, me being back healthy, and just having the team that we have. Yeah,
is he saying this year is in 2021 or this year is in 2020? I'm not sure.
I don't know if he knows what he meant, because he obviously played a lot more in the slot.
I believe so. I'll have to look at the numbers on that. I think it was about, I'll have to go back and check some of those numbers.
All right. Well, anyway, because he dealt with the injuries and all, and obviously I'm guessing he's talking about injuries, meaning 2019 season, with that knee and all, right?
Yeah, well, that knee's also carried over into the 2020. I don't think it caused him to miss time, but he's always had that knee kind of flare up on him. He's been battling.
Right. Now, look, I mean, you don't view him anyway as a guy that's going to play a lot of Z anyway. I don't think. Now, obviously, here's the thing: how many are we going to see an influx of 2 wide receiver, personnel groupings this year? More so.
Who's going to be your second tight end then? Because they're going to be in 12, or I guess 21 if you want to put Derek Watt in the field some more.
Well, they're going to have to solve that, right? I mean, that's one of the things that been talking about.
They should probably be in 11 a lot, because that's going to get their best players on the field.
Yeah, but how are you going to run out of that? Well,
I mean, you can run out of 11. Every team basically bases 11 besides like Baltimore. So other teams can run out of 11, I think, just fine.
Well, they better learn how to do it better.
They do absolutely
with Ebron on the field there. But anyway, that was one of the things that stuck out to me talking about that. What all the Tomlin conversation, or what he said about being fined by Tomlin, was interesting.
Yeah, let me pull up the comments here. Just a kind of classic Tomlinism joke. The story was that Juju and AB showed up late for one training camp practice, and Tomlin went up to Juju and said, I'm going to fine you so hard your kids won't be able to go to college, which is just a great Tomlin line. But he didn't fine AB. And Juju kind of said, AB was always late. Everyone knew he'd be late. And because he was AB, he kind of got to get away with those things. And I know that's going to make some people upset and say that, Tomlin was let things go too often. That's kind of what made AB AB. And maybe there's some argument to be had there. But that's just how it goes for coaches. The stars get treated differently than other guys. And right or wrong, that's how it is in almost every organization.
Hey, he's been Tomlin's openly admitted that he doesn't treat everybody equal, right?
Treats them fairly, not equally.
Right.
That's the phrase that Tomlin. And then Michael Irvin told the story right after about how he showed up late for, I think, a meeting one day, him and some like rookie or something, and Jimmy Johnson said, "Michael, you better go down and stop sleeping and go sit in the meeting." And the other rookie, "You're cut. Get out of here." So I mean, that's just unfortunately that's how it goes. Michael Irvin got the pass, and the rookie got the axe.
Right. Anything else stick out?
Well, it's interesting, and you mentioned that Juju said had he not signed with Pittsburgh, he probably would have gone to Kansas City and the Chiefs because he didn't. Basically, he was saying that I don't want to play in Baltimore's run-first offense was what he was saying about Baltimore.
Right, and look, we'll never know exactly what those incentives, what he turned down, was what to hear the reports he turned down a little more money, but we don't know what those incentives, the exact numbers related to that and how likely to be earned they actually were. So and he wanted to return to Pittsburgh the whole time. Nobody was going to pay him astronomically more than probably he would have signed elsewhere if he could have put another $4 or $5 million in his pocket. Probably, I would think.
Well, Baltimore offered him, I think, up to $5 million more plus incentives, and again, we don't know what those incentives are.
We don't know. Yeah, but we don't know the exact structure of that. Never will, though.
Sure. Right. But yeah, obviously, he said the big reason why he wanted to come back to Pittsburgh was because Ben was back and he had a really good relationship with wide receivers coach Ike Hillier. And I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Juju made several references to having a new OC. And I kind of felt like maybe he didn't love, at least last year, how Randy Fichtner used him.
Or just being positive overall, and he did also say, look, he's biased. He wants the team to draft offensive player. He even named Najee Harris by name there. So, not surprising that he would like to see the team draft a offensive player in the first round. And in fact, he said, I think he narrowed it down to like center or Najee Harris for the most part there. So not shocking there, but for a Michael Irvin interview, not bad at all.
That's the best way to sum that one up. Yeah, so good discussion there.
All right, what else do we have?
Last thing to note, I think, before we get into reader emails, is that I had a really good interview with Jordan Dangerfield the other day. Had the article go up on Steelers Depot yesterday, and the main takeaway for the here and now is that Dangerfield says that he's kept in contact with the Steelers. The door is not closed, but there's been obviously no resolution on if he'll return to Pittsburgh or not. He says he would love to come back, but just kind of playing the waiting game.
Yeah, if they could get him back on a minimum salary benefit deal, that'd be great. Maybe Dangerfield's whole you would think they'd be fine with re-signing him to one of those right now. It's probably more on Jordan Dangerfield maybe wanting a little bit more than that right now.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe they just feel like they've moved on because Dangerfield is getting older. I think he's 31 years old, and they did sign Miles Killebrew, which I didn't have the quote in the article, but Jordan Dangerfield very much noticed they signed Miles Killebrew and didn't seem to love that too much in terms of chances of him coming back. But I think there's enough differences in their game that it wouldn't be redundant to re-sign Jordan Dangerfield. So right. I think if it'll happen, I think it'll be post-draft. I think you wait things out until after the draft, but we'll see.
Do you still get the feel, though, that Dangerfield's going to end up on a one-year deal somewhere?
Yeah, wherever he signs. I mean, I can't see it being a multi-year deal, whether that's in Pittsburgh or somewhere else.
Do you think it's going to be kind of a minimum salary benefit deal, or?
Pretty close, yeah.
Right. I mean, look, you got Ray McLeod on a 1 year, $1 million contract. Why couldn't you sign Dangerfield to the same thing if he'd take it? And then if he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. At least that I think I would go that route with him, because what would you use, $200,000 in cap space that way?
Yeah, what would be the guaranteed money there? $100,000.
I mean, not even if you did that, because Ray's just on a flat 1 year, $1 million contract.
Was there no guaranteed with that?
I don't think there's any guaranteed with his deal. Also, I mean, look, you got guys like Jordan Berry on a minimum salary benefit deal, and they only gave him $100,000 signing bonus. So yeah, you could do something. You could even go to the max and give Dangerfield the $137,500 max signing bonus. And at least put some guaranteed money in his pocket that way. It's hard to imagine that they don't have such a deal out there for Dangerfield right now anyway.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if they just feel like they want to move on. I think he played well last season. I don't know. But I think nothing will get resolved until after the draft, I'm guessing.
What's your gut? You think they sign him at some point this offseason or no?
My gut says no. I mean, I hope they do, but I haven't gotten any indication they do, and maybe they do feel like Killebrew is going to be his replacement.
All right. Well, I thought Jordan played well on special teams, and he's special teams captain, and he's a guy that, been hard to keep off the roster up until this point. Right. I don't know what all of a sudden has changed in a matter of a couple months.
Yeah, I don't either. 8-year guy, not bad for an undrafted kid at a Townsend. Remember, he started his career at Hofstra, and after he got there in August, in December of that year at Hofstra, they cut the football program, so he had to go find a new place, and that was tough for him. And so, has really overcome a lot, and so it's good to get to talk with him.
What is his career earnings? Do you know?
Somebody said $2.7 million. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what one commenter said.
2.761. Wow.
But hey, I mean, for a lot of people, it's hard to knock that. I mean, it's a lot more money than people might see in their lifetime. But
right.
For 8-year NFL career, I mean, obviously that's not a ton, relatively speaking.
All right. Good job on that. Definitely insightful interview there.
Thank you. All right, Dave. We got the Houston Pro Day coming up here in a little bit, so let's get to some read emails and close out today's show.
All right, Jelani Suleiman writes in, Dave and I love the show as always. With the departure of Vince Williams, if it was up to you guys, would you guys roll with Spillane to replace him, or would you guys draft a Zaven Collins or Jeremiah JOK in the first if either of those guys were there at 24? Are there any free agent options you would consider instead? Look, I mean, I don't like getting too much into what I would do in certain situations here, but Spillane feels like the kind of fallback option here. Collins, I think in order to have Collins, you would probably have to draft him in the first round. I don't like the probability of that obviously happen. And JOK, if he's staring you there in the face, though, him or Browning, that Alex and I talked about earlier, I'm not going to be shocked if they go inside linebacker in the first round. I'm just not. I mean, I know it feels like, well, yeah, but you got to do something on that offense, address the center position or the running back position. I'm not going to be shocked if it's going to be JOK or Browning. So that's how I would answer that question. If it's not one of those two, JOK or Browning, I think really you don't have a choice but to kind of roll with Spillane. And maybe I think they draft a guy at some point during this thing, inside linebacker. But that kind of guy, I don't know if he challenges Spillane right out of the chute.
Yeah, I think it's just a question of how much do you consider inside linebacker to be a need right now. If you can get a top-tier talent like a JOK, it's tough to ignore. I would certainly draft somebody, but it's just always hard to answer those questions in a vacuum because it's so much based off what other guys have I drafted, what other options do I have on the board right now, and things like that, because there are just so many needs. And you have to my terrible take today is basically you can't fill all these needs here in the mock draft as it sits here today. There's just too many needs on this team to fill adequately. And so you have to pick and choose what's most important. So it's hard to answer that. I would like to find an upgrade at inside linebacker, but it just depends on kind of who else is there and where my draft is going.
Avery Williamson, would you re-sign him for the minimum?
I mean, I guess for the minimum, just as it really would just be an insurance policy for injury, though. That would be the only reason why I would sign him.
I mean, he wouldn't be guaranteed to make the roster, and obviously, I don't take it that you would go outside and do a cheer or anything like that.
It'd be a shrug.
Shrug. All right, let's move on here to another email here. Matt writes in a couple of draft questions. Could you see Tommy Tremble as a quality blocking tight end option and Rondale Moore as an option for the Steelers as insurance if they can't reach a longer deal with Juju next year? Man, I just have not got. I haven't gone as deep, I don't think, as Alex has, but I just don't get that warm, fuzzy feeling about Rondale Moore. I'll let Alex talk a little bit more about him. Tommy Tremble, I mean, he's a quality blocker, a little bit undersized though, and I kind of wonder about that with him.
What's Tremble's size?
What is he, like 6'2", right? Wasn't he?
Is he? I'll have to look. He's bigger, though. I mean, his weight's good. We have more. I like Moore a lot. I don't think the Steelers have a lot of interest in him, and I wouldn't draft somebody just to be an insurance policy in that sense of it. I think Moore's just too small for what the Steelers look for, generally speaking. Tremble, though, I would love to see Tommy Tremble in Pittsburgh as a run-blocking tight end.
I guess 6'0", 3'3".
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a little bit below average, but it's fine. Anything
241.
helps your leverage and stuff. So I mean, I think that's fine.
Look, I like Tommy Tremble. I get a feel when I just feels like people might be overrating him. I tell you somebody I've been diving into a little bit more. Not full blown, but I Hunter Long out of Boston College. I think we've gotten a few emails on him already. People saying you guys need to look at Hunter Long out of Boston. Might he be he might be tight end too, Alex?
I saw your take. I disagree. I did not fully like Hunter Long too much. I think he's like tight end 5 or something for me.
What sticks out that you don't like about him? He catches the ball down the field. He makes contested catches. He blocks. I mean, what?
And the thing for me is that nothing stuck out. It was just all, It was all average.
All right. Well, what does Pat Freiermuth have that he doesn't? Then would be my main. I'm not gonna argue where you might have him ranked because I think it's obviously very subjective when it comes, especially this year's tight end class here. What doesn't he do that Freiermuth does that has you excited?
I just don't know if there's the upside with Hunter Long. I don't really view Long as a longer term starter in this league. I think Freiermuth has that potential. So I think Long's fine, but I mean, he's never going to be a starter. I don't think he'll just be a jack of all trades, kind of a backup, and I just can't burn a high pick on that.
Would you believe his Spork rating is 112.6? Hunter Long.
How does that rank among tight ends? It's a decent score.
Not bad at all. I mean, as far as this year's class, as far as guys that have done what now look, it's Kyle Pitts and then everybody, right? I mean, I think Kyle Pitts is like 131.5. I mean that there's no doubt who tight end 1 in this class is. I don't think, but I think you look at Brevin Jordan 111.4 Spork. Hunter Long's got a better Spork than he does. I think with the drawbacks on Long is he's not. I think a lot of the knocks on Long are a lot of the knocks on Freiermuth. Not going to probably run away from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just didn't really see any sort of wow factor in any facet of his game. I mean, he's got decent hands and he can make some contested catches, but other than that, I didn't really feel like, wow, I really have to get this guy because he's got this great standout trait.
Put it this way. I think Long's right there with Freiermuth, but you would disagree.
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay, that's a guy I think we both probably need to dive deeper into is Hunter Long. Now.
I mean, I watched Long. I did the profile on him. I just didn't come away that thrilled about him.
All right. I think you can make an argument. Brevin Jordan's a little bit undersized. I worry about that aspect of him.
Yeah, his tape's better, but yeah, the testing and the size are knocks against him.
And I haven't looked at his depth of how does Brevin Dunn average depth of target? Do you know?
I do not know. I can look up his just yards per catch and give you a gauge on that. He averaged 12.9 in his career, 15.2 last year, 14.1 in 2019. So I'm guessing it was decent, but I don't know for sure.
All right, his yards per target for his career, Brevin Jordan, 9.0. All right, which but his average depth of target for his career. Now this doesn't have. I always like to look at average depth of target and average depth of target per reception, and I don't have that number here. But and I'll guarantee you, his average depth of target per reception is probably lower than his average depth of target. When you think. And that's 7.2, which isn't all that thrilling.
What was Hunter Long's?
Hold on a minute here.
Because it's just hard to these numbers on their own are just
9.1. I'm telling you, Long's got some catches down the field now. I haven't looked at them all, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great tight end class in terms of depth. If you want a safer, quote-unquote, safer option, I mean, I could see the appeal of Long, but I just feel like he's a number 2 tight end as his ceiling.
I need to look more at Brevin Jordan, and by no means am I calling him this year's Moss, but don't be surprised if that guy kind of slips a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the everything in this pre-draft process is testing and its measurables have pushed him down some.
The tight end class this year is kind of right? I mean, it's Pitts, and then it's been that way for a couple years now, though, I think, right?
Yeah, and again, tight end is the toughest, besides quarterback, it is the toughest position for these college guys to make the jump to. And so it's just hard to count on any rookie, even a guy that you do like, to make an impact in year number one.
All right, let's hit this one from Bryce. Hey, guys, it's Bryce. Loving the draft profiles. Keep them coming. Boy, we got tons of them. We got tons of them in a hopper, tons going up today and all through the weekend as well, too. His question is, okay, so I'm putting you both on the spot. You can only choose one of the following to not address in the upcoming draft. Tackle, running back, corner, tight end. Which one are you leaving out and why?
That's actually the subject of my terrible take today, basically. I would say tight end because two reasons. One, you can go sign a vet, and two, the class just isn't as strong as those other positions. Yeah,
I would tend to go. I mean, look, I'm not going to leave. I don't think tackle and running back off. So it's going to come down to corner and tight end, and with Nelson being jettisoned now, and then look, we still don't know who's going to. I mean, you could use a slot in there really, really bad right now, especially if Sutton's going to be your outside guy. And boy, I sure would like them to have a better tight end, but I would have to leave tight end out because just the this year's class is meh, and I guess still holding out hope maybe that a Jesse James circles back at some point, I guess.
I wonder if James just waiting for post-draft because he just got screwed so bad when he signed with Detroit, and then like a month later they draft Hawkinson like 8th overall. So I wonder if he's just like, I'm going to wait till after the draft to make sure that doesn't happen to me again.
It's very possible. Maybe he's just waiting to see if he can get a better deal out there. He probably knows he's got a 1-year benefit probably at 8 different places if he wants it,
Right.
So why get in a hurry here? One more from Derek Dimmy here. Hey, fellas, now that pro days have all concluded, who are the top 5 odds on favorite to beat a Steelers pick in the first round? Derek, I hope you listened to the top end of the show because I think we already answered your question there. He says he's still looking for my fungible minutia T-shirt. I promise you, once we get deeper into the offseason, we'll spend a little bit more time probably trying to get the T-shirt together and I don't know. I'd like to do something maybe for charity with that, Alex. As well. If we got some sort of T-shirt together on that. But Derek, hopefully we answered that earlier in the show about most likely Steelers here. I thought I saw one more. J.R. Waller writes in, just want to stir the chili, he says. Looking at the running back class, the common belief is there are only 3 backs, as you discussed on the last terrible podcast, which is let's see. So my question is, because running back are numbers driven. Oh, he had 1,000 yards, shiny object, call it what you will. Is it possible that several running backs are being overlooked, where in the past years they would be stronger picks? A number of running backs didn't get to play in a full slate of games. Trey Sermon, Chuba Hubbard, maybe I like the name, Kenneth Gainwell, Ramondre Stevenson, Chris Everson, Jamar Jefferson, all didn't get a full slate of games in 2020 for several reasons. Let's see, top 3 all got full boat of games, with Carter, the 4th, also in my full schedule. He says, I like your breakdowns of explosive runs. Blah, blah, blah. If you listed guys you could consider strong for fungible non-first round choice. Personally, I would take Harris in round 1 at 24 and wait round 2 or 3 otherwise. I don't know if there's really a question from Waller there. Look, I don't know if there's a question in there, but I have felt for a little while now, or I started off initially thinking it was going to be Najee, Etienne, Javonte, possibly. I think Javonte's kind of slipped out of that, especially with Steelers not being at the North Carolina Pro Day. I never envisioned Carter being in the picture there. And now since then, I think it's going to be one. I think you add Sermon to the list and take Javonte out. I really think one of those 3 guys now, I'm at the point where it's going to be one of those 3 guys.
I still think Javonte could be in play for Pittsburgh, just not at 24. But the issue with that would he be there at 55? And I kind of doubt it. So that's kind of where I'm hesitant to think Javonte Williams will become a Pittsburgh Steeler. But I still think a guy that they would like, just not at 24.
All right. All right, we hit quite a few questions there. I think we're about an hour and 45 minutes into this, so perfect time to maybe stop there. We're going to do the YouTube live stream on Monday, correct?
Correct.
What else do we have?
I'll probably be back for Tuesday unless anything major breaks here, and then we have a couple more pro days, pro day press conferences we'll get to, and hopefully get some more information on who the Steelers have been talking to.
All right, in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Steelers Depot turned 13 yesterday. Alex, what do you think about that? That's half your age, isn't it?
Yeah, just about. So yeah, congrats to all the team members, past and present, we've had, and just got a great group of guys right now, and just had another one in Daniel. We're really excited to have him. So yeah, really, really cool to be part of that for the last, God, how long have I been here now? A long time. So really, really excited about that.
Guys and girls too, because Dr. Mel,
yes.
huge part of what we do, and she's doing the Sunday Terrible Takes right now, which are absolutely fan. They've actually been, they've gotten the most listeners, I think, so far. You and I are going to have to up our game a little bit as far as that goes. But what a great group, and we added Daniel to the crew this past week here as well too. So excited to see his work there. So Alex and I are going to run off to some pro day interviews right now. So in the meantime, until probably Tuesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.